Joan Beringer is one of the 2025 NBA Draft's most intriguing international prospects. This is Floor and Ceiling, let's break him down. Joan Beringer only started playing basketball in 2021 after outgrowing his soccer cleats. He originally joined a small, local club with the hopes of playing at a regional level, not even knowing what basketball academies were. Beringer was so green that he was training with 10 and 11-year-olds to learn the rules of the game. But in a short time, Joan has gone from zero experience to possible top 15 pick. That's where ESPN currently mocks Beringer, although my personal range for him starts more around the 25th pick. I'm high on the French big for many of the same reasons that I like Kaman Malouach, such as his youth, achievable outcome, the speed of his improvement, and then the lineup trends as well around the NBA. The 18-year-old big, who now plays for Cedevita Olimpija in the Adriatic League and the Euro Cup, is an unsure commodity, but I'm confident that he is a tangible developmental prospect. Joan Beringer is primarily a defensive prospect right now, given his shot blocking, ground coverage, production early on in his developmental curve, and overall physical tools. His 8.6 block rate leads the Adriatic League, and that remains a great figure at 8.3 across 53 games in all competitions. Beringer recently said that he was 6'11" with a 7'5" wingspan, which would be awesome measurements. I do feel like the Cedevita big might be a little bit shorter, but Joan is still growing, and we'll see what his official measurements are soon enough after his combine either way. When he's defending the pick and roll, Beringer is fluid and twitchy. The French prospect has the verticality, length, and standing reach to contest, block, or alter shots. In particular, it's Beringer's hips that really stand out to me. They're fast in that he can flip them or open them up to disrupt ball handlers and screeners effectively. When Beringer is asked to backpedal, he's very fluid and light on his feet with how he changes angles and the length of his steps. Broadly speaking, the Frenchman is extremely coordinated, which I think might stem from his background in soccer. Beringer is very new to the game of basketball, but he doesn't look clumsy for the most part. And then, something else that really stands out is how Joan is a powerful leaper off of 2 feet. This means that Beringer adds rim protection and help, and again, it speaks to his overall shot blocking instincts and output. Generally, Beringer does well to track drives, and he's twitchy, exploding up to reject shots. For the most part, I think that the Olympia center times himself well. He's definitely capable of some highlight-worthy blocks, but I also think that Beringer will need to be careful with his body. Those fluid hips and his foot speed also come into play in the open court. Beringer gets stops in transition, using his speed to get back on defense and come up with plays. Joan had some impressive sequences this season, and you can really notice his north to south velocity and his total ground coverage when he's having to literally go from one end to the other and he's still being disruptive. Beringer is extremely long and rangy, so this shows up everywhere. For instance, this length was also effective and apparent when Beringer was asked to hedge. I think I prefer him in drop or in help in the pick and roll. However, he can also definitely be a threat when he's more aggressive with his coverages. Generally, Beringer was nimble and agile enough to hedge and then run back to his big in the paint. My question is whether the French big can finish plays with blocks and defensive rebounds after he does this. Diving into how Beringer switches, the tools and the flashes definitely exist. Joan has the foot speed to stick with drives to the rim, but also he has the versatility. Beringer takes up a lot of space, and he's also capable of switching up his steps into shorter, choppier strides if he needs to contain smaller ball handlers. Beringer is also effective at contesting pull-ups, although guys sometimes made tough buckets over him towards the end of the shot clock. One important thing to keep in mind is that the geometry of the court is way different in the Adriatic League compared to how it will look like in the NBA. Beringer has the physical tools, but the spacing in his current environment is much more crammed, and overall, his reads maybe are just not as demanding. On this note, Beringer is productive, but his inexperience still shows. He commits avoidable fouls with his body when he's going for blocks, so that's a question of positioning. This is all very teachable though, and Beringer's improvement rate is very encouraging. Still, he can foul across despite having solid hand placement. None of this should be concerning, but he can also be more consistent about getting down in a stance when he's in space, even if this might be nitpicky. Over time, Joan will understand that he has the length and the speed to maybe stay a little bit further away from ball handlers sometimes, and realize that if he starts too close, that's when he's more prone to giving up blow-bys. As a whole, changes of speed can still be a struggle. Beringer doesn't quite know how to deal with decelerations yet, particularly around the rim. Ball handlers can get him to jump or to foul, but again, this is about reps, acquiring more experience, and getting craftier. I really do buy into Beringer's upside on defense, and I think he's much less raw than one might expect, but still, patience will definitely be needed. Beringer will likely get called for a ton of fouls early on, be that in the NBA or in the G League, and it's very possible that he barely sees the court for most of his rookie contract. Joan Beringer is strictly a play finisher on offense who is an easy fit as a big in the pick and roll and around the dunker spot. At around 6'10" or 11 with a 7'5" wingspan, Joan has decent hands and a huge radius for his lobs. Beringer is long, fluid, and under control when he's finishing against low men and help. He uses his athleticism to finish at a solid clip right now, but he will get tested a lot more in the NBA. Right now, Beringer is the best athlete in just about all of his games. Still, Beringer can gather bounce and overhead passes alike, and then not get rushed at the basket while finishing. He has strong pop off both feet for dunks, and his activity around the paint is very high, which is probably my main takeaway. Beringer's process isn't always perfect, but he's athletic, productive, and he will keep improving with more reps and added strength. One thing though, which is important, I'm not sure that Joan has a left hand though, so I will be tracking that. Continuing to look towards the future, I think that Beringer has incredible potential as a rim runner, but that hasn't really been tapped into by his current club. Beringer's north to south speed is a definite standout trait, particularly at his size, but he'll need to find the balance between outsprinting his opponents down the floor and getting too far ahead of his own team. Continuing to dive into how Beringer finishes plays and how he's productive above the rim, Joan's rebounding numbers are also strong with some encouraging tape. The French big is averaging 1.6 offensive rebounds and 3 defensive rebounds in 18 minutes per game. Beringer's length, pop, and motor go a long way. He's always willing to do the dirty work, diving on the floor, leaving his area, and really just trying hard in his pursuit of the ball. Joan also taps into his athleticism to get tip dunks, which should be useful at the NBA level. As a whole, what I'm focusing on is this idea that Beringer creates second chance possessions for his team, as well as how this should be the worst that Beringer ever is on the glass. Even though Joan's stats look good and his tape definitely has some high points like we've been seeing, I'm not totally convinced by the Cedevita Olimpija bigs rebounding just yet. It still feels like every game features an instance or two of Beringer giving up a quote-unquote gettable board. His timing on the glass can be slightly off, which is probably because he picked up basketball so late. Then, his hands are more good than bad, but Joan can also fluff some easy catches or get stripped at times when he shouldn't. More than anything though, Beringer has to be more consistent and diligent about keeping his man off the glass. Again, gaining more muscle should help. Beringer can get pushed around a little bit, and he'll give up inside position despite his effort, although we do have to keep in mind that he's playing against grown men a lot of the time. In terms of fleshing out his offense, Beringer does not add any self-creation or shooting. In 87 games tracked across his career, he has taken and missed only 2 3-pointers. This season, Beringer has taken a handful of catch and shoots from the free throw line or the elbows, but these reps, I should stress, are developmental rather than functional. This means that he cannot shoot or stretch the floor at all, but that's fine. What's important for Joan is converting his free throws, which he hasn't done with enough regularity throughout his career. I don't care that Beringer needs to get spoon-fed at the rim and that he's reliant on guards. He's not going to be the first or the last big that this happens to. However, he just cannot be shooting in the low 50s from the charity stripe. So even though the shot, really the foul shots, remain a big question mark, I do see some expansive signs with Beringer's passing. The volume and even just the overall tape is extremely small, but I do feel like Joan has solid feel. He never forces anything as a passer, which is always good. Beringer knows that his role is to finish plays, so if he touches the ball on the perimeter, he's almost always defaulting to a handoff. Over the course of the season though, there have been some scare signs that Beringer can slow down and scan the floor out of short rolls, for example. He's only done this a handful of times, but they've been interesting. At the very least, Joan plays with his head up, and he doesn't accumulate any unforced turnovers or mistakes, which is always encouraging for a play finisher.